Hey. Welcome again. Some quick updates. And just notes. These videos get uploaded around the end of the day. I don't actually do that. They happen automatically when I finish the stream. It starts uploading, I guess, and then they show up on my YouTube. So if you are curious about watching the beginning of this video or rewatching it later, just give it about a day and it'll be there. Thanks again for tuning in to my little creative projects stream to you live. On, what is it today? Wednesday. On Monday, I was messing with this set of samples and a recording of myself. And before the stream today, I just kind of like decided to try out some arrangement. So I'm kind of going to start with that. But I'm going to have this sort of instrumental section, which I like.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself. Have I been before? Or is it new each time? What is an old experience, but a new one with expectations?
Hold on, I'm gonna post this on Reddit real quick. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do all of this stuff at the beginning of the stream and actually do the stream at the same time. But until then,
Have I been before? Or is it new each time? What is an old experience, but a new one with expectations?
all right, cool.
Have I been before?
So, real quick, you might be wondering how I am controlling the vocal and doing things over like an extended period of time without actually controlling the patterns. You might. I don't know what you're wondering, but could be one of those things. And the way that I do that, I've been kind of playing with this lately, sort of introducing the arrangement mindset to a live performance. And essentially what I do is I extend the meter of the scale of the sequence out by dividing it by a quarter. So now it's like super slow.
The space is hard to find.
I also make the scale of my master track super long. So I'll set this, sometimes I'll set this to only happen the second time by going in here and saying dash first, which means it'll skip the first time and then it'll play every other time. Or you can do like 2 out of 8 or something, and assuming you won't go that many times through, it won't matter if you have it at 8 or whatever, it won't come back. So yeah, I like to do this thing where I set first, and then I'll use these trigless trigs to essentially mute or pause the sample after it gets to that point. And I find this is kind of a fun way to play with the length of a sample. Instead of creating slices, you can just kind of have it play and then pause, then play and then pause.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself.
Yeah, like for example, check this out. Say I have this loop playing.
The space is hard to find because it exists.
Actually, I'm going to do it half as fast, or half as many bars.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself.
So what if I wanted the last one to just hit without a hi-hat? One thing I could do is create a trigless trig and then reduce the release by, so by default, I like to put my hold at the smallest value, because then I can adjust the length of the release to my liking. So that kind of creates like a decay effect, or I should just say a release effect, because decay is another thing. But in this case, if I just want this to happen the second time around, since this is 2 bars, I want it to happen at the end of 4 bars, I would set this to either not first, or I would set it to like 2 out of 8. Because I know I'm gonna basically move on after the second time I play anyway. So I would say, let's do this, 2 out of 8.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself.
Yeah, I need it to be a little bit shorter if I want that effect to work. And actually, if I'm testing it out, I won't use the conditional trig just so I can hear it first.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose.
A little too short.
Less a destination than a place I found myself.
So now I'm realizing that there's like that I do need to adjust the length of the actual sample first. The hold, I mean.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose.
Yeah, there we go.
Less a destination than a place I found myself.
So now we're going to set this to 2 out of 8.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself.
So now it's going to be skipped until it comes around the 9th time, which by that point I'll be over on this side.
Have I been before?
So in my mind, the map that I have for this track is to kind of create these instrumental interludes in between the spoken parts. So what I'll do is just kind of, I'll have this vocal section, which you've already heard. Well, actually, yeah.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself. Have I been before? Or is it new each time? What is an old experience, but a new one with expectations?
Kind of want to hear the rest of it, see what.
Have I been before?
Ooh, and actually I should set this so that it starts silent. Oh, yeah. So I need to set this pattern. So what happened was I have this set to not first, so it actually skips this trig, but the problem is it's set to loop, so it's carrying over from the previous pattern. So what I want to do is set the pattern setting to start silent on track 1.
Have I been before? Or is it new each time? What is an old experience, but a new one with expectations? I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things, huh?
Actually, yes. Yeah. So I'm going to pause this vocal because, where did it go?
Have I been before? Or is it new each time? What is an old experience, but a new one with expectations?
So what I wanted to do was, by the way, you can also,
have I been before?
you can also set the crossfader to adjust the release of a trig. I wouldn't recommend it unless you have like a drum track that's sliced up and playing like that, because then you can affect the release so that if you can cut off like a hat fill right at the snare. Maybe I'll do that later. But what was I gonna do also?
Have I been before?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing I was showing you where you kind of play a trig first and then you pause at the end, or you skip the trig the first time and then you play the second time. Those are ways that you can make a single pattern feel like multiple patterns. You can make it feel like, oh, it started like much emptier and then it built on itself, and I didn't have to, go into the patterns to switch that. And that kind of that's really up to you how you decide to organize these. But I guess for me, I've been noticing that organizing the patterns not as like arrangement sections, but as like sections where the vocal comes in, kind of helps me keep track of when I want to move on. So for me, when I want to move on is when I want the next vocal section to trigger. At least that's how I'm doing it right now. I think that's probably the way I'm going to keep it, because I think the other time I was talking, I was reflecting on how complicated it can be to have like multiple slices per vocal track and have to remember when to trigger each one. So I feel like it's better to have it programmed in, having reflected on it a bit, than to have to keep some kind of a chart where you're like, oh, this is where this vocal gets triggered, this is where this gets triggered. Maybe I'll try it again sometime where I actually do that manually. But I think for now I want to focus on like playing keys, for example, or using this crossfader, then adding an extra step of like, here's where the next line has to come in.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose.
Sorry. Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, check this out, because where's this and why is it not playing? There we go. Yeah, I think I need to clear these trigs because they don't actually help me very much. But what if I'm here?
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less destination than a place I found myself.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to demonstrate is I'm still in the process of figuring out how I want to use the crossfader in this particular instance, because I've removed the need to mute certain tracks or anything like that, because that's kind of built into the way that the pattern plays. So maybe for the control of the crossfader, I would mess with the filter that's applied to this.
The space is hard to find.
It's a bit weird. Maybe I would increase the depth.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose.
I just need it to feel rhythmically right, though.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less destination than a place I found myself.
I don't even know if that's worth doing the whole time, because I'm having fun doing it now, but like, really worth doing live. I think what it should be, I think it should be something that fades the drum bit out. That opens the filter on the kick. Increases the Q of the filter and the depth of the just like kind of a wacky.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself.
Yeah, something like that. And then actually, oh yeah, I have a phaser on this drum set, so I can't do reverb on it. Otherwise, that's what I would want to do there. Still haven't figured out what to do with track 3. Oh yeah, I should just go over this real quick. Track 1, drum break.
The space.
Track 2, bass. Track 3 is nothing. Track 4 is kick. Track 5 is the vocal. Track 6 is nothing as well. I should just unload it, shouldn't I? Typically what I've been doing in this project is, oh yeah, I should check my messages real quick. Sweet. Oh. Sorry, I just looked at the restream. Holy crap. I should have read this stuff. Oh shit, I'm sorry. I'm still figuring out all this streaming. Hello, Alice. Hello, Nick. Hello, everybody that joined while I was absorbed in what was going on. Rustic says, "What are your settings for the whole backing vocal track in the pattern settings page for that track?" Backing vocal track, the pattern settings page. Pattern settings are just, I think I'm just playing it back. I don't know. You can check this out. No quantizing. All it is it is a single file. This space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. And yeah, not very much is happening in the pattern except the sequences starting here and then on a long scale.
The space.
It's playing a bunch and then it's told to stop. Basically, I set the rate to 0, so it pauses the speed of the track. It's like if you put your hand down on a record player or something, you just stop the speed of it. 1080 is better. Hey, Def, I just realized you're here. Just going through this. Okay, cool. I like that drum sound. What's that from? This is actually a bit of a secret of mine. My friend gave me these beats that Bink Beats recorded. I don't even know if I'm supposed to have them, but I don't know how he got them. He sent them to me. If you look up Bink Beats on YouTube, he's really dope. And these are all just super clean. And unfortunately, you can't have them, sorry. But but it's not about the samples, I say, as I use these awesome samples. Anyway.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found.
Thank you, Darren. Yeah, so just to review, and this is almost just for me, but I what was it that I did?
The space is hard to find because it exists.
Oh yeah, so another thing that's kind of interesting about this particular sample, on Monday I recorded this sample on the bass, and you'll notice it's twice as fast. But the way that I get around that is just by adjusting the hold length. Or actually, I adjusted the length of the slice, I think. Yeah, so it doesn't play any further than that. And then the second slice is the pickup.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose.
Cameo Spirit. Yes, I do have my songs set up one per bank. That's because I really like to keep all 4 parts reserved for a single song in case I want to switch things around. It's just a little bit more comfortable for me. I know that in Merlin's Guide, if you haven't heard of Merlin's Guide, you should check it out because it's really good for Octatrack stuff. It's usually, I feel like most people who have gotten an Octatrack have done like months of research, and most of them have heard of Merlin's Guide, but here it is in case you don't know. And yeah, I know Merlin likes to use each of his parts individually and kind of like move clockwise as he edits so that he can like almost have like an undo history of places to go. He calls them campsites. But for me, I feel like each of those is like equally precious for different parts of the song in case I want to use a record buffer once and then turn that into like a sample in another section. And of course you can do one-shot trigs too. And maybe I'll move on to that at some point, but for now I like to see exactly what the samples are when I'm moving around.
Have I been before? Or is it new each time? What is an old experience, but a new one with expectations?
So now I need to build out the next section, which will be kind of similar to this one.
The space is hard to find,
except with a new sample. So that's kind of the going structure I've been using for these tracks in this particular project. Is like I have a lot of spoken word segments. Been looking for places that I can cut them up and have an instrumental bit, and then I kind of just separate it out where I'm like pattern here for vocal or intro here, pattern here with the first segment, instrumental, pattern here with the second segment, and so on. So what is the next segment? Have I been before? How long does that one go? Can't remember.
Have I been before? Or is it new each time? What is an old experience, but a new one with expectations?
I decided that something like this might fit this vocal a little better, just like pitching it down and making it a little less serious, because listening back to it, I was like, man, these sound like a bunch of shower thoughts strung together. But I feel like giving it kind of like a tongue-in-cheek bounce feels a little bit more enjoyable. And plus, there's a lot of stuff in here that's very serious, so I'm glad to have like a little bit more of a palette. I want to be here. Yeah, so I wanted to use this one because
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out.
What if I adjust the rate, no, adjust the pitch in a trig, have it trigger, and then, wait, which one was it? I shouldn't have used like the second LFO. Anyway.
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out.
Too low. Increase the speed.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Too short. Slow it down. lower the depth again, and increase the bass pitch.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out. Just something a little bit wacky.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out. Maybe even higher.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Spoil things.
Hey, Sarah. Thanks for chilling and checking this out. Cameo Spirit. Sarah is... I didn't have a Sarah on the vocals, actually. I have Annabelle, Kiana, Jess. I want to be here. All of it is a trick to subliminally keep viewers engaged, all right?
I want to.
Is that not what music is by nature?
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
So that should be by itself because it's going to get very confusing once I stop having the LF. Actually, hold up. What if I took this one?
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
And then I pasted it here, but then I reversed all of the stuff I had just done with a trigless trig. Yeah, so that should restore the original pace and pitch of the sample.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things.
But what is the original pitch that I have here? Rate 56, okay. Yeah, I might as well just not fuck with that. Okay.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things.
And then I'm going to pause this here. Well, the thing is, because all of this stuff is P-locked here, like pitch and all of that, it's going to restore the defaults no matter if I lock it or not. It actually just remembers all of those settings. That's something to keep in mind when you use these trigless trigs, is just having one restores all of the things that were in the previous P-lock to their default settings.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh? The other thing I wanted to try was... oh, sorry. Let me just recap what that was. I just took the sample. I had this LFO pitching it up kind of a trippy way. And actually, I'm going to keep messing with that and give it an increased feedback.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out. Actually, oh shit. No. I deleted that one. Forget it.
Be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh? And then I want that to be in its own spot. So I'm coordinating when it pauses and plays.
I want to be
Yeah, I noticed this like lime green. It's also lime green because this tent that I set up in my patio area is like reflecting yellow light. So this whole area is being just bombarded with bright green light.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh? Yeah, so what I want to do there is mute the vocal, mute the beat right before the intention can really spoil things.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh? No wonder that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment. But I don't want the rate to be fully normal. I want to go back. Alright, give me a sec.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh? No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
Alright, cool. So, what was I trying to do?
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Oh yeah, I wanted there to be some kind of like a sudden change at the wanting takes me out. Just to kind of like help accentuate that moment. And actually, maybe I set this to trig, sync, trig. Because I get so tired of having trigless trigs trigger the trig-based LFO.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Yeah, it's better.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Yeah, so I'm going to create a trigless trig here to up the volume of... So I'm essentially creating automation for the volume because I feel like the wanting takes me out gets a bit swallowed by the beat.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Actually, that's a good moment to lift the...
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh? No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
So, I can use this. I mean, okay, so one thing I'm thinking about is that pattern 1 is like this intro I have. And it's got these like little bird samples that are basically being selected at random. I have this random LFO triggering every like 2 bars, and every time it chooses a random spot to play for like a tiny bit of time, which kind of creates this nice generative effect that I'm interrupting by talking. And this is a little piece I made on the OB6. It's like, 45 seconds long or something. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to actually I should set this so that chain behavior is shorter because it's like a little bit less dependent on time right now. I feel like what I need to do do that.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself.
So that first section is like this little instrumental part that's like probably one of the more romantic sections of the mix that I'm making here. And I wanted to juxtapose that with this kind of wacky, spacey feel. And so I was thinking I could add like a little bird song to that second section of me being like, I want to be here. And then the wanting takes me out. So the birds would like start to chirp, and then the wanting would like cut them out. Fringe Pod, do you sample directly from the OB6 into the Octatrack? So that particular sample that I made was actually for something that I did with Def a few weeks ago, where he was doing this online radio mix and needed some instrumental parts. And so I recorded these really beautiful sections that were just pretty much solo synth. And then I threw them all into this folder of like post-quarantine files that I've been keeping together. And it's been really cool to like kind of treat those files as though they're bound by this event, and to experience them that way. Even if they weren't from this particular time, or like just the fact that they were sent to me or that I made them during this time is like kind of a fun way to think about the production of this whole project. Like this bird thing was from before, but it's kind of in a similar headspace, so I threw it in there as well. Anyway.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
So where are these birds?
I want to be here. I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Ah, the release is too short. Is this it? Yeah, okay. This is a different part.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting.
I want to be here.
Oberheim expander, man. I've never actually touched an actual Oberheim device.
I want
That sounds
to be
cool.
here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Yeah, I want it to be like whoosh. I don't know, it's kind of dangerous. Like I'm realizing that I'm building a lot of automation into the Octatrack, and part of my like approach to the Octatrack, I like to think, is leaving enough control for you to actually be interacting with the music as it's happening.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
But I think I will find ways to do that elsewhere.
I want to.
Yeah, so right, so we established that this one was kind of like this mild adjustment. Maybe we can try one where we do create like this weird vortex of change.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
And then this can go to 0. This can go to 0.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh? No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Yeah, so what if it was... I don't really like the time shift sound. How do you handle the big sound of the OB6? Yeah, that's something that I thought about when I first got the OB6, because I saw a lot of forums talking about how it does fill the whole spectrum. My arrangements have gotten a little simpler because of that. I feel like it's just such a great sound that I can't not have it. So I just end up making things simpler so that it has room, or just EQ. I don't really mind. I feel like some people would feel like it's sacrilege to do anything to that natural signal, but sometimes I'll throw it through like an RC20 kind of like vintage modulator type thing to make it sound even older, or that's kind of where this sound came from, actually. The sound in the beginning here, a bunch of these OB6 samples I threw into the RC20, which actually I think I just saw it was on like sale or something. I'll link it. Retro color plugin. It's a really useful like Boards of Canada-y effect. And yeah, I've just kind of I think it's a matter of just being less precious about what the sound should be and messing with it more. I'm pretty sure I threw this into that. So it's not just the straight synth. That's where that wave is coming from, because like the oscillators on here, unless you do some, internal tricks, they're very predictable. They're very like mathematic. And here it's like a much more, I don't want to say organic, but more unpredictable kind of waviness. Like there's a slow wave and there's a quick wave that undulates. Really want to use that somewhere. Right.
I want to be here.
Oh, what happened there? Did I adjust the pitch incorrectly?
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Yeah, maybe if I had like a reverb. Yes, okay. So here's one of the benefits of having multiple parts to each bank/sound. Bank/song is the first pattern had a delay which has like a very long decay and stuff. If I use a second part here, I don't have to worry about this, because this is part 1, part 2, and I can change the settings of the delay entirely. In this case, I want it to be lock, I think, because I want to set the delay to lock so that it creates like it'll hopefully make the birds sound really artificial.
I want to be here. And then the wanting takes me out.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Yeah, that's something I just noticed. Did you hear how like the pitch changes?
I want to be.
This is like very nerdy Octatrack stuff, so buckle up. The first pattern here adjusted the LFO / the rate and stuff. I think it just made some changes to the settings, but because I had switched parts, that first trig, I think the thing about the Octatrack is if you're on one part and then you move to a different part, the parts kind of affect the different tracks in a staggered way. So they only affect the track when there's a trig there. So if I didn't have any trigs like on here, for example, these settings could be changed visually, but they won't actually make any changes until you actually trigger something. So what we're hearing is that there's some kind of remnant of the settings that hasn't switched over yet because the part hasn't been triggered by this pattern. Which is why every time I start with 1 and then I go to 5, I have to play it twice.
I want to be.
Just one of those weird finicky things about the Octatrack that probably help more than they harm because of the way that like I probably take for granted the benefits of that. One way I can fix it though is by going to track 5 and saying start silent, turn it to yes. So now I think that should remedy the issue.
I want to be here.
Yeah, so that's something important to know about the start silent setting is that it actually also means apply part changes, apply whatever changes at the start of the pattern. That's something they don't tell you in Octatrack school.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things. No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside a teachable moment. I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
I'm just confused that this isn't working for me. This scene, even though I locked it. I think I'm going to try the same thing just in case it's happening to this track. Start silent, yes.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can
What am I missing?
I want to be here.
And then the wanting.
Pass through. Sorry, my cat is asking to be let out. Cool. All right, thanks for chilling, FringPod. I'll be here Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, 2 p.m. till 4-ish.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things.
So what I want to do there is introduce some kind of loop. That's so weird. What is that? Why is it doing cool things?
I want to be here. I want to be.
What if I had that be in there?
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things.
Yeah, it was a cool idea in theory. What did I do that in class? No, my cat, lately it's been interesting. I've created this like outdoor, I use this double sleeping bag to create this outdoor patio section by my studio. And my cat has never been outside, Penny. So she just like loves hanging out there during the day. It's cool. I don't think she's ever experienced wind before. This is my other cat. That's Arthur. Anyway, I have a magnet of him that I put on my X-Zone 23.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Yeah, I just feel like there isn't enough cool stuff going on with this scene. Like, there's a lot going on, but there's not enough cool stuff. So I kind of want to like mess with it even more and increase the depth, increase the feedback. Like, I want it to sound very trippy. Oh, increase width. That'll help. And then this will come later, but
I want to be
yeah, so
here.
I think what's going to happen is I'm going to set this to be longer. This is the track that hasn't been used yet. You've got the bird, you've got synth here, you've got vocal, drums, kick, bass, and then 3 isn't anything yet, but I think I'm going to introduce it right here. Just like something that's very like disorienting. I haven't used Road to Nowhere. Is this long? You know what? I bet somewhere in this, I've run out of memory in my audio pool, which, by the way, is a thing that can happen. And I bet that somewhere in here there's like a file that's like ridiculously long that I accidentally loaded. But I'll find that later. I think what I want is to have some kind of backwards vocal.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh? No wonder that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
Floating away.
The bell is nice. Yeah, the bell's kind of nice. As long as it's not too long. Doesn't have to be that long.
I want to be here. I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
I want to be here.
Compress, no, just boost the volume.
I want to be here.
So what I'm gonna do,
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh?
yeah, ding.
I want to be here.
And then the wanting takes me out.
Intention can really spoil things, huh?
Yeah, it did sound satanic.
No wonder that play.
Yeah, so what else? Leaving the main box, leaving the aux box forward. Also a cool idea. I might actually add that in a second because I think I have a bit more road left. Is that what people say? I have a bit more. I have some runway. Somebody said runway the other day, and I thought that was cool. Anyway. Shit. Right, so this needs to be.
Have I been before? I want to be here. And then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things, huh? No wonder I want to be here.
Yeah, so this is going to go first. This is going to have some extra reverb on it. It's all good. I'm always free to ignore you anyway. Cool, just had to tune that for a second. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna have that come in. So essentially the performance aspect of this is I'm playing it.
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things. No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside the unteachable.
So one thing I was thinking was that bell could be the signal to a very different section right after it, with a different part. Like part 3 could be like some just entirely different thing, like even just a, you know, even just that one sample. But do I want to use that sample there? That's the question. It's worth trying, I think. Clear the pattern, even though I copied the pattern over, set it to part 3. Yeah, I just wanted to try what it would sound like if I used 50. If I used the OB6 bit that I made, that I was saying I wanted to use. I do want this to stay fairly light, emotionally speaking, so I might adjust it back. Dublab, I think it was called. Yeah, that guy. Maybe we'll just start by some kind of an LFO or something going on. I don't know. -100 would be dope on the Vox. AB. Sorry, could you elaborate on your AB comment, Darren? Because I was thinking,
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things.
so this didn't copy over because track 5 was set to start silent, but I don't want it to do that this time because I want it to carry over from here.
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things. No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
Why does it do that? Why does the sample fade in and then go quiet? Did I do that originally? Oh, I totally did. Shit. It's built into the audio file. So I think I'm just going to start it there. It's kind of cool though, because I feel like it's better if it's like we're in the middle of something. So
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things, huh? No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
Yes, the vocals are me. No wonder then that... Have I been before? I want to be here. That they may out rhyming words. No wonder then. No wonder then. Yeah, so maybe I just, instead of doing this whole complicated thing, I set the space. I want to. No wonder then. I want to be here. And then the wanting take. No wonder that. Yeah, so.
Have I been before? Or is I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things, huh?
So now.
No wonder then.
No, I don't want it to continue. How do I keep it from continuing? Like that? Slice?
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things, huh?
Yeah, so I think what I want is for the pattern set to end fairly quickly, because by the end of this, I don't actually know where I am in the time. Basically, I'm setting the pattern set so that it switches on like quickly on like a eighth note basis, because by the end of the track, there's no beat, so it doesn't really matter where I do it.
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things, huh?
So then this, now we're in a new part, which copied over the scenes from before, but let's pick what scene we're on, clear it, and then start this one. Yeah, okay, cool. So set this to like right there.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside.
And also because those birds were in there on track 6, I already know preemptively that I want this to, yes, start silent. So
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things, huh? No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment. That they may outlive it. No wonder then.
right, so this needs to be set to first, otherwise we'll just keep repeating when it comes back. Oops. That. And then also set this drum to turn itself off. I think that takes care of all of those things.
I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out.
So this is a way that you can
Intention can really spoil things, huh?
really play with timing. So like we have no clue where that is.
No
Now we're in
wonder
the next
then
track.
that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment. That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not.
So maybe do I want to do weird stuff in this part? I mean, is this really worth it? I was thinking about doing this thing where I put record buffer here. I tell it to record from track 5. Repeatedly. Maybe like a 32 step, I mean. Set it to 1. Nothing else matters because it's using a buffer. I mean, it's using a record trig. And then kind of like having it play back slower.
No wonder then.
Yeah, so this needs to be a quarter.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Yeah, so why is it doing that? This is the first time I've tried to do... Oh, I see. I'm going to turn slices off. This is the first time I've tried to do one of these kind of like live record and playback.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, writing along.
Yeah, so you can...
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. No wonder then.
Yeah, notice that if I set it to... Okay, so what's going on here? I have a record trigger on the 1, and then I'm also playing it back on the 2. Notice that if I have it on the 1, it gets confused because it's like, why are you telling me to play something that doesn't exist? But if you do it on the second one, and you make sure that you're not going faster than the original recording, you can have it play back a live version of what's happening. And in fact, I can set this to a really short length, like maybe 16. It's not that short, but this will start to just...
The play should be taken playfully. No wonder rhyming word.
So this needs to be shorter as well. Or...
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
So you can see this sort of like... The way I'm imagining this is like, it's like in... anyone see like Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit? There's like this scene where he's like building railroad tracks as they're riding on the railroad. So he has to keep like making the railroad tracks so they can keep moving. It's like that.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
So what I'm going to do here is set this to spatialize. This is like a super sound designy thing I'm trying, but it's kind of a fun exercise. Like this whole project has kind of been just like a fun way to try new stuff that I never usually try.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding along.
And in fact, if this is a new part 3, I can turn down the delay just to like accentuate what's going on here.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment. That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not. Where then is the space for anything else?
Cool. Maybe filter this out. Maybe... No, that's probably fine.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment. That they may outlive an explanation.
So, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to set this one to undulate its pitch slightly and also its panning slightly. Amp, balance.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That. No wonder then.
That play should be taken playfully.
Right.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they may outlive an explanation. I want it to just barely hit my actual pitch and then go back down so that it's like, is it pitched? Is it not pitched?
No wonder then that
Actually,
play
the easiest way to do that is to set the rate to 63, but that means that you have less of a crest, because if it hits an absolute max, it'll just be like the wave gets cut off there. I don't know if you can see this. Hold on. This visual is very important. If your maximum is at 63 here and the wave is going above it, it's just going to hit that ceiling and then go back down. So you're not hearing as much motion if you do that. So I'd recommend, if you're doing the exact same thing as me, to set, I mean, we could just use simple math to figure this out. 59, set the depth to maybe 6. Then it'll go between 62 and 50, 6. But actually, I kind of want it a little bit lower than that. So 55, maybe 50. I'm just worried it's going to be too low. So let's say 59. Actually, 58. And then increase this to like 7. This is balance. Okay, maybe 8. And the balance is kind of, yeah, I need to bring that up so you can hear the panning.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words.
Cool, let's hear them together.
No wonder then
that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment. Oh, I realized that as I changed this, then I'm also changing that, but I actually wanted that to stay pitched down. Well, the other way to do it is just to switch this to a static machine and just use the sample itself instead of sampling and making things complicated. But it was so cool. Nobody cares if it's cool, because nobody can see that happening. That's another important lesson of using the Octatrack. Unless you want to start a video series explaining how everything works, very few people are going to understand why the thing that you're playing is cool unless it sounds cool. The space is hard to find.
No wonder then that
No wonder then
that play should be taken playfully.
No wonder then that play right, so then this goes to first. Why is it? No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words,
riding alongside an unteachable moment. That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not.
Where then is the space for anything else?
No wonder then.
I see.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
God damn it. Okay. I'm not really sure what I'm chasing here, to be honest. There's like this, I just want it to be this weird, like, stuck in your head internal monologue.
No
thing.
wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Too far apart. No wonder then that play should be
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
This needs to be more precise.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment. That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not. Where then is the space for anything else?
That's kind of nice, actually, at the very end there.
No wonder then.
Adam, yes. So, your birds are earlier, and I'm just trying to figure out if I want to use, like, ocean? This bubbly sound? Maybe I can get away with using the birds again. But maybe I need to put the OB6 over here so I can use those birds. I do like the idea that the birds would come back, but I think it'd be nice if they came back in like a weird way where they're not like supposed to be birds, or they're kind of like mutated sounds.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life.
Yeah, so like one thing that's kind of fun to do, set this to lock. What was I gonna do? Play this first. Yeah. There's so many ways to oh yeah, backwards would be good too. There's so many good ways to trigger things and then have them like do some kind of weird trailing off. So like, for example, I'll use like a trigless trig to lock the delay. Hopefully this will work.
No wonder then that
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they... The key to this is... Actually, I'm going to make this back 1. The key to this trick is by having a backup for after this first thing is triggered. So you just make another one. You play yes, and then you give the send a non-zero value so that it will unlock. And we'll see if that works.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not.
Where then is the space for anything else?
It's pretty fun. I'm into it. My only issue with playing things backwards is like, I always get confused about what the Octatrack is trying to do, because oftentimes when I go backwards, it's like, I think it takes the ending of the file if I have it set to max length. But it's not that hard to fix. You just set the length to less than that. And
no wonder then that play...
It sounds like contra sounds or something, which is kind of cool.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding along.
So to recap, we have a trigger starting the sample. Actually, this one needs to be everything but first. Okay, so the trigger starts the sample. This trigless trig locks the delay so that it creates this kind of like echoey effect.
No wonder then that
then this next trigless trig unlocks the delay, and then this one locks it again. So it basically lets out another little bit of the sample. Meanwhile, the sample is still playing in the background. So by the time we come back, we get another one, But this one, since it's set to first, it gets skipped. So now we're just operating off of these files now.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment. In fact, I could have just made this a single track, or I could have made this a single bar, because the second bar is doing exactly the same thing.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they may outlive an explanation.
Is the property of life, cherished or not? Where then is the space for anything else?
Yeah, random locks could also be done, could be used this way. That's what I did for pattern 1. So in this situation, I'm doing almost exactly the same thing, but in a different way. In this case, I have it set to skip the first one and play every subsequent one. And what it's doing here is it's picking a random start point. Actually, that's balance. It's picking a random start point in the sample. And instead of cutting the playback off, it's just holding it for a very small amount of time and then releasing. I think this one's also skipped the first time, yeah. How does all of this sound? Oh, because the delays don't get... I'm confused because the balance doesn't sound different at all. Maybe I just have to increase it more. Cool. Now, one thing I'm noticing about this is that the this is set to hold, which means it's just stuck on one, but if I moved it, maybe it would reflect that with the delay. I just have to slow it down so it's not like... No, too fast. Maybe a bit too much. So I'm going to keep it on hold because it lets you choose a spot, stick to it, and then the delay will give you like a call and response back. So what I want to do with that is I think I want to recreate that effect, but with distortion at the end.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
But I want it to be twice as long because it's too fast. It needs to feel kind of like the first one.
No wonder then.
And actually I'll skip. Let's just copy it over. LFO copy lets you copy that page to the end, and then we can adjust the length here. No wonder. So then instead of using this as a lock delay, I'm going to unlock it. No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable.
Now, what is the settings of this?
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
I think it's because I have it reversed.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding along.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment. That they may out.
So this one was compressed, which would have helped bring that out. But in this case, I'm just going to distort it. Maybe bring it up a little this way.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not.
Where then is the space for anything else?
Maybe a little shorter.
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words,
riding alongside an unteachable moment. That they may outlive an explanation
is the property of life, cherished or not.
Where then is the space for anything else?
Is that what I want? I think so. I think we can try this out and see how it sounds.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself. been before? Or is it new each time? What is an old experience, but a new one with expectations? I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things, huh?
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words, riding along.
Yeah, so this needs to fade in more. No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not. Right, so what I want to do here is time stretch it so that it actually does stay. Because it's so filtered, you're not going to be able to tell. The space... Yeah, it's like... You cannot tell. Oh my god, it's so slow. Why? Oh god. Oh, the problem is that I don't know what the original... Was it at 80? I usually choose 80 as my default tempo, so hopefully... Well, actually, what I could... Ludes. OP1 is soloing through Empress Reverb. And Octatrack. Yes, so the OP1 is going directly into the Empress and then out stereo into CD, which is then coming in through track 7. In the past, I've used it as a direct in, but in this case, I want it to be... And actually, I think I'm going to keep it that way for all the tracks because it's just better to have control. And sometimes, like, you can't pick direct in for some tracks and not for others, I think, because you can't save this as a part, I think. Let's try. Yep. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. So if you're going to use a through machine once, I would say choose wisely and do it the same way for your entire project.
Nope.
And you get to do cool stuff like this. You know, like this is originally... This is a filter here. So if I was performing, I could like... and reload it. No wonder then that play should be taken playfully. Yeah.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not.
Where then is the space for anything else?
Yeah, that's kind of a nice exit to the track.
Have I been before?
Because it goes a lot of places. What's interesting too is this bird thing is like in here fully. I don't remember doing that. Maybe I should just give it a really long release. And oh, it's already set to first, so
the space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on.
yeah, so by the time the vocal starts, I don't want the birds. I like to think in this track that my my main revelation here is that I can kind of play with timing. A lot of the time when you look at a sequence like this, you're like, oh shit. There's, you're kind of like confining yourself to a box that involves tempo and speed. But this sample isn't bound to tempo. It's just playing. So I actually don't know where in the pattern it stops. So the way I free myself is by setting the pattern to chain within a short time frame that is kind of like just naturally switching.
The space is hard to find because it exists between the places we go on purpose. Less a destination than a place I found myself. Have I been before? Or is it new each time? What is an old experience, but a new one with expectations? I want to be here, and then the wanting takes me out. Intention can really spoil things, huh?
No wonder then that play should be taken playfully.
Rhyming words, riding alongside an unteachable moment.
That they may outlive an explanation is the property of life, cherished or not.
Where then is the space for anything else?
Sweet. Okay. Took 2 days this time. I've been grateful that the last, 3 sessions were just like bam, bam, bam. But I think I needed a little extra time to get over the sound of my own voice, first of all, and to flesh out some of these ideas. I thought I was going to get to defs today. But honestly, I think it's great that I had extra time to play with this one because there are some timing things that I've really enjoyed playing with, and hopefully stringing all of these pieces together from weeks ago when I started doing self-isolation themed music. There's definitely been a progression. Like I went through this drum and bass phase, and not really drum and bass, but kind of more like old school rave trance-y beats. And then I have these like more organic beats that Def's been playing with, and I'm going to revisit Def on Friday. But this has been a really fun experience of just like letting the beat be as open-ended as the vocal is, because the vocal has no rhythm to it as well. So just like figuring out how to build these worlds around an existing piece, I would recommend trying it. If the sound of these tracks appeals to you, that you've heard through these videos, a lot of them came about because I started with, and some of my favorite creative projects from the Octatrack have stemmed from having like either a lead vocal that had a tempo, or just having, the spoken word stuff. This past month has been like hugely inspiring to just have it, either play from start to finish without me manipulating anything, just like with a first trig, or by, slicing it up and playing it at certain points. I feel like that's been a really fun way to build around it using the Octatrack. And oftentimes, people say that the Octatrack is so confusing because there's so many different things you can do on it that you just like don't know where to start. Well, one of my favorite places to start now is with something that can't be changed and has a certain time limit to it. And so then you sort of build these patterns around what's already going on, and you can find ways to like build the moments into the sequence. And I think that's a fun way to start with a skeleton of some sort, and then use your scenes, use parts, use whatever you need to enrich that world every time you perform it. So like the first time you make it, it'll be like this very basic thing. And then I start, performing it more, then I can find ways that the performance can be even more interesting, where maybe I adjust the scene, or I save a bunch of scenes that kind of like manipulate the sound as it's playing. But at least the skeleton exists there. And what's really cool about this process is, if I don't like that vocal, I can mute it, and then I can build an entirely other track around those patterns that I've created, or those scenes. So it's a good starting point, is what I'm saying. I think I'm just gonna close a little early today. Got a lot of stuff that I'm thinking of doing, and Battlefront 2 has a new patch, so I'm gonna do that later. But thanks for chilling and hanging out and listening and watching this sometimes dense and sometimes beautiful exploration. And I'm gonna just keep these coming. I've been impressed with the output, and even with like a camera and a phone. So I'm really excited to share this process, and excited to know that it's not hindering the process, but it's actually somewhat facilitating the process. So thanks for watching and providing this like digital third space that we can that we can communicate in, because without you guys, it's just me and a camera. Like, I might as well not upload it. So thanks for encouraging me, and see you on Friday, 2 p.m. PST.